Welcome everybody. I used to think that if I just kept my head down and I did great work, that people would eventually notice and recognize my contributions. But what I now know is that what I was experiencing was this invisible gift syndrome, and I was confusing, like trying to be, having humility with hiding the actual value that I had from the people who needed it most. And so I want to unpack that with you today. And you may have found yourself before. I don't know if you've ever felt this way where you feel like you're the one, keeping everything running at work or home or in your business, but somehow no one seems to notice. I mean, let me tell you, you're not crazy, and yet you're not being seen. And it's not because the gifts or the things that you have don't matter. It's because they're invisible to those around you. So I want to help you unpack that today and see how you can make your gifts and your superpowers visible without any sort of self-promotion, by learning to position the gifts that you have where they are going to create undeniable impact through really consistent service and showing up for those people around you. Now, if you are new here, welcome to the channel. This is the Giver Method channel. My name is Jake, and I'm so glad you're able to join me. Now, question that I like to ask that's going to ground this for you. Do you feel like you've poured yourself into the work that matters, like solving the problems or supporting the people around you by creating real value, but you feel completely overlooked when recognition or advancement comes your way? Or maybe you might fall in the bucket of you feel like, hey, I watch maybe less capable people get promoted while my contributions seem completely invisible to those that around me. And I don't know how to change that without making myself feel like I'm bragging or putting myself out there. Or perhaps what I do best feels so easy to me that I assume it's no big deal. So I never talk about it, but deep down, I wonder if anyone actually notices what I'm bringing to the table. And if any of that resonates with you, then once again, this is not, it's not that you're invisible or that you lack talent. You're just being overlooked because gosh, it's not because you don't matter, and it's not because it's not ordinary. There's this familiarity, devaluation, that psychologists will talk about. It's they refer to it as a disorder, but whatever. But it's it's where your brain actually dismisses the abilities that feel effortless to you and amplify others' maybe apparent talents. And so maybe you're a parent who handles family chaos with organization skills, but that feels so routine to you that you can't see them as the extraordinary gifts that they are. Or maybe you're an entrepreneur delivering brilliant work for your clients, but staying silent behind, humility while louder competitors gain more and more visibility. Or I don't know, maybe you're an employee who's consistently solving the problems and supporting your colleagues, getting passed over because decision makers simply just don't see your impact. Once again, it's not that you're lacking gifts in any way or that they're not valuable. It's about them. Your gifts are invisible, and to you first and foremost, but then that makes it so they're invisible to others. So I want to help you to solve that problem, really start to make the impact you were born to make. Now, like I said, my name is Jake Talbert. I'm the founder. I'm the author of this book. It's called The Giver Method. Everything we're going to talk about today is grounded in principles directly from this book. Right now, you can get it on Amazon for as little as $2. I highly recommend that you use the link in the description. Go get yourself a copy, pause the video, go do that, or just open up your Amazon app and go find The Giver Method by Jake Talbert. Get yourself a copy. Maybe buy a copy for someone else that needs to hear this. And why people love it, why it became an Amazon bestseller, has tons of 5-star reviews since it came out, is that it is grounded in stories and examples and actions and exercises that you can do, because I wrote them for myself, as a parent of 3, as an entrepreneur, as somebody who has worked in that corporate, sea of cubicles. Everything in here is designed to fit in your life, so you don't have to burn everything down and start from scratch to make things work for you. And one story I like to talk about is when I lived this sort of a pattern. I worked in corporate America and I was consistently driving results. I was delivering the results they were looking for. I was solving these complex problems. I was supporting my team, trying to lead people around me. I believed that the good work should speak for itself. But while I kept my heads down and did really excellent work, I watched others with less skills, but more visibility get the promotions around me. And it wasn't until I started to use some of the different skills and gifts I had from years of leadership, from years of performing comedy, from different places like that, where I wanted to show up with my gifts in these ways that I could serve others, as a part of an ensemble every single time. But what I learned, gosh, I need to use these things to be visible. Visibility doesn't come from announcing these abilities. It comes from consistently positioning your strengths where they're going to create value that's impossible to ignore. And so that's the shift I want to help you make today. There's tons of data out there that supports everything we're going to talk about, that when people undervalue their natural abilities. One research shows that average by 67% we devalue ourselves because we judge it based off our personal effort rather than the external impact. And that's, might be why people feel like it's basic. It's basic in their field. It's perceived But others look at it as this extraordinary thing, like it's because they're not experts in that thing. So what feels ordinary or effortless to you is often desperately needed by others. You are the only person that has the combination of gifts, superpowers, and experiences that you have, which means that you are the only person who can make the impact you can make. There are literally people waiting for you to step into that and start making the impact that you can make in their lives. They're waiting for you. So stop waiting. Like, you know, your gifts, if they stay invisible because you never learned to position them strategically, you're going to keep falling into that. So we want to change that today. So I'm going to walk you through these 4 different like positioning principles, things like that, that have helped parents and entrepreneurs and employees like yourself really transform that invisibility into really authentic recognition around them. You know, once again, we want it to be that your impact speaks for itself. And no, it's not about becoming louder or flashy or any sort of self-promotion. It's about understanding that true humility isn't hiding your gifts. It's recognizing them as the tool to serve others. And when you position them really properly, you know, where they create obvious value, that recognition comes as a natural result of that contribution. It all ties back to the giver method, like I said. So, because when you learn to make your gifts visible, you know, and you do it through service without expecting anything in return, gosh, you stop waiting to be discovered. You start creating impact that just naturally generates recognition and opportunities for you. And so if you want to dive deeper, go ahead, like I said, get the copy of the book down in the description on Amazon. You can go to thegivermethod.com, learn more about us, of course. You can follow us on all social media, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, all those places under the handle of The Giver Method. And then, of course, if you're feeling like you've been overlooked, you're wanting to find ways to make these contributions, then, and you want someone in your, on your side helping coach you along the way, then check out the link below where we talk about our coaching programs. We've got some open spots that you could look into. Now, if you run a team, a podcast, an event, have some sort of a stage or whatever, a platform where people gather and you feel like this message or one of the messages we cover could serve them, let's talk about how we could bring it to them in a really practical way. You know, there's a link down below about speaking and podcasting. And of course, hit subscribe, tap that bell for notifications, comment like anything that lands for you, like the video, all those things so that we show up for you in the future. All right, let's dive in. Let's stop all the, you know, upfront stuff and start making let's start making your invisible gifts impossible to ignore, not through, you know, self-promotion, but through this like strategic service. And so the first thing is you have to recognize the gifts that you're missing. Like, this is how you spot your gifts through other people's eyes, okay? Now, this is something that you really have to take into consideration, and it's the very first principle because you have to see it. Like, it's the most important thing that we skip because it feels uncomfortable to people. That's really what it comes down to. Deep down, you might believe that if something comes easy to you, like, it can't be valuable. And I used to think the same thing, you know? And here's what's really happening. It's your brain measuring your abilities by effort, not by impact. And so if it feels effortless to you, you're going to write it off as no big deal. Meanwhile, when you see someone else doing something impressive, you focus on the result and you think, wow, that's special. And the irony is, like, they're probably dismissing that very strength in the same way. And so once again, psychologists out there, they'll refer to this as like the curse of knowledge. You know, it's the blind spot that makes you assume your natural abilities are common because they're familiar to you. They're so easy, they just come naturally to you. You know, but that's the truth is, like, what feels ordinary or easy for you is often extraordinary for somebody else, and they're waiting for you to deliver that impact to them. You know, think about that last time someone thanked you for something that you just brushed off. Maybe, you know, you turned some chaos into order, or you explained something in a way that finally clicked. You kept calm when everyone else was losing it. Whatever it is, like, what did they say? And, you know, it's probably something like, oh, you probably said something like, oh, it was nothing, you know? But it wasn't nothing to them. Your easy wasn't possible to them. That's why they're thanking you for it. And this is where so many people get stuck. There's that gap between where you see your gifts and how others actually experience them. So you downplay or you dismiss or you deflect what people deeply value in you. So that's how your gifts stay invisible. So let's talk about how you fix it. Let's talk about how you can actually change that. So you need proof that your brain can't argue with. You know, so you're going to start creating like a file of the gift recognition you have, where for the next couple of weeks, you know, you capture every thank you that you get from people, every compliment, every time, you know, you're like, I don't know how you do that. You know, people say things like that, like save whatever it is, save the exact words people say. And when someone asks you for help in a way that, you know, they wouldn't ask anyone else, write that down. And then take a step further. Maybe you reach out to 3 to 5 people you know, that you know really well, a friend, a coworker, family member, whoever, and you ask like, hey, what do you consistently rely on me for? What do you think I'm naturally great at that, you know, I might not even see? Like, it's going to shock you what they say to you. And here's the rule. Don't explain, don't downplay, don't argue. Just write down anything that people are saying in these areas. Just write them down. And then when, you know, you want to put this into practice, you know, that doesn't feel weird, of course. The next time someone gives you a compliment, don't brush it off. Just say don't say hey, it was nothing or whatever. Like, instead, pause and smile and just say, hey, thank you, and let it land. Let it resonate with you. Once again, we're not trying to inflate your ego in any way. This is about retraining your brain to stop discarding real evidence of your value. Every time you actually let recognition land, you're replacing that old narrative, the one that says your gifts don't matter, with this new grounded reality. And this matters so much because you can't make your gifts visible to the world until they become visible to you. You have to realize they're there. And the moment that you start collecting these compliments, start noticing the patterns and letting yourself receive recognition without deflecting it, that's the moment where these invisible gifts start to come more into focus and we can start to use them more effectively. Now, our second area is you need to make your gifts impossible to miss without having to be the person shouting them. So this is how we show up where it counts. That's what I want you to focus on. How do I show up where it counts without shouting it? Because once we start spotting our gifts, then the next move is leaning into how we put them in the right places. The spots where they can't help but get noticed by others. Now this is where so many of us trip up. We think that being visible means bragging, and being humble means hiding those things away. And neither of those things is true. Your gifts, they don't need big announcement. They just need to be put in the rooms, the conversations, the situations that solve real problems. Do that consistently, and recognition will take care of itself. And so I like to think about it you create a positioning map, as if you were trying to pitch a company, a business idea, whatever, where you grab a piece of paper, you write 3 columns. The first column, you're going to write down your top 3 to 5 natural gifts, the ones that you keep seeing in that gift recognition file we talked about. In the second column, jot down where those gifts are actually needed in your life right now, whether it's at work, at home, in your community. And then the third column, write one simple action that you could take this week to show up with that gift in that situation. That's it. Super simple. For example, if your gift of bringing calm, to the chaos, it might be hey, where's the chaos right now? Maybe it's a project at work that's all over the place. Maybe it's your kid's schedule. Maybe it's a community event no one wants to coordinate. Whatever. You don't walk in and say I'm really good at calming chaos. You just show up and bring the calm. If you have a gift of connecting people, well, who needs to be connected right now? 2 coworkers who keep missing each other, parents that could share a load, share the load with each other, colleagues who thrive just to, off things that being able to learn from each other, whatever it is. You don't need to say hey, I'm the connector, I'm here for this. Just show up quietly and help bridge the gap and let the results show. Now, here's the kicker. It's not about doing this once. Visibility grows through the consistency of doing it. So show up once, people might notice, but if you show up over and over again, you become known for that thing. So pick one context where your gifts are needed and commit to showing up in that every single week for the next 30 days. Maybe organizing team meetings and that always drag. Maybe it's teaching kids math lessons and such that no one else could explain. Maybe it's streamlining chaos of your family's schedule, whatever. Don't overthink about it. You don't have to talk about it. You don't have to make some announcement. Just go do it week after week, and it'll be amazing what you see. Because here's what happens: people start pulling you in and saying hey, can you help us with this? Hey, you're really good at that. Start introducing. They're going to start introducing you to others by your gift. That makes the visibility that you're not forcing. It just grows naturally out of the service to others. This positioning, it works in a noisy world. Good work doesn't automatically speak for itself, but consistent contribution, showing up authentically you with your gifts in that sort of way, it automatically will. That contribution in the right places, it makes your impact impossible to ignore. And the best part is you never had to promote yourself. Your actions did all the talking for you. Now, our third area is how do you build that proof that your gifts actually matter? So once again, we want to record the wins. The things even after you start showing up with your gifts, your brain will still try to downplay them. That voice will be yeah, anyone could do that, or things along those lines. It might sound familiar. That's why you need a system that captures proof before it slips away. So, having some sort of a daily value log where you take a few minutes each day at the end of your day and you jot down 2 to 3 moments where your gifts showed up and made a difference. Once again, nothing fancy. It could be a note on your phone. It could be in a journal, whatever. Maybe you helped a coworker untangle a project that helped them breathe easier. Maybe explain something in a way that finally clicked and 3 people thanked you. Maybe you kept the calm in the room that was tense and shifted the conversation back to progress. The key isn't just to write down what you did. Write down what happened for the others in the room because of it. That's where the value is showing up. And then once a week, look back at that log. Spend maybe 10 minutes scanning for any of the patterns that are there. Where are you showing up most consistently? What types of problems are you solving the most? Which moments felt like too small to write down but actually meant a lot to somebody else? Those are usually some of the clearest signs of even hidden strengths that you could start to lean into even more. Write yourself some sort of like a short recap, something like, hey, this week my gift of creating order showed up in team meetings and family planning. The impact was like less stress, faster decisions, people asking me to do it again. Like, once again, now you're not just guessing what your gifts are. You've got these receipts that you can hold on to, and then stick with it. Like, you got to stick with this for 3 weeks to 30 days. That way you have undeniable proof of your value. So when your inner critic starts to whisper like, hey, this doesn't matter, people don't care about this, like, you've got pages of evidence to show it otherwise. Now, the advanced move to this is that you start translating your strengths into outcome language. Instead of saying like, hey, I'm good at organizing, I would say, hey, I help people turn chaos into simple systems that save time and reduce stress. I explain things well. Nope. Say, hey, I help teams understand complex ideas so they can make better decisions faster. Once again, you're not braggedy. You're just giving clarity. You're not inflating what your worth is or what you're bringing to the table. You're just finally describing it in a way that people can actually experience it. Because your memory, once again, it's terrible at hanging on to proof that doesn't match that old belief system. If you've been convinced, like, over time, like you start to get this idea that your gifts aren't as special as they are, your brain will literally delete the evidence right when it happens. But when you write it down daily, weekly, consistently going back to look at it, you build that stack of proof that's too heavy to ignore. That stack becomes like a foundation of real and unshakable confidence for you. And that takes us into the fourth area, which is like you own your gifts without losing them, without losing your humility. So this is like being confident but grounded. And then, this is where it all comes together, because like that humble confidence, like, is being able to step into your strength with authority while keeping the spotlight on service. Now, it matters because like a lot of people were raised to think humility means hiding those sort of things. We deflect the compliments, downplay what we're good at. We worry that if we show up too strongly that we're going to come off as like arrogant. But the way you reframe that is like, real humility isn't pretending the gifts don't exist. Real humility is recognizing them as a tool to serve others. And so think about the old pattern when someone says thank you and you're like, oh, well, it was nothing. Like, anyone could have done it. I just got lucky. That's not humility. That's erasing your impact. It actually diminishes the value that the person just received from you. Now imagine this instead, like someone says, thanks for helping me with the project, whatever. And you respond like, hey, I'm glad I could make things easier for you. Or, hey, thanks. Like, that's exactly what I was hoping would happen. Like, just a short, gracious, like, something that stays focused on them. That's humble confidence. That's you acknowledging your gifts and letting like the words land and keeping the focus on the service that was created, the impact that was made. And when it comes time to communicate your value in let's say an interview with a client, even in a team meeting, the key is describe the gift, like what your gift does for others. Like, it's not like, hey, I'm great at problem solving. It's like, hey, I help teams untangle really complex challenges so that they can move forward with clarity. Not like, it's not like, hey, I'm an excellent communicator. It's like, hey, I help people understand through ideas so that they can make better decisions with confidence. And so if you see that shift, like, once again, it's not about bragging. You're just translating your gifts into impact language for them. It's not about being better than someone else. It's about making, clear what happens like when you show up in that sort of a way. Now, humble confidence takes ongoing check-ins. Like, after you've used your gift in a visible way, ask yourself 2 questions. Like, did this genuinely help someone? And was I more energized by the impact that was created by that than maybe the recognition I got? And if the answer, like, if those answers are leaning towards impact, then you're kind of in that sweet spot, right? Now, the bonus is like, when you practice this consistently, you don't just shift your own visibility. You start spotting invisible gifts where, like, in others as well. You start to notice when your coworker dismisses their talents as like, I'm just doing my job. You catch your spouse or your partner who waves off the things that has helped the whole family. And now you can say like, no, that matters. That's a gift. That's when this becomes even bigger than you. You create the environments where other people stop hiding behind these false modesties and start showing up with their own strengths as well through service. That ripple multiplies through everything you've learned, because like the goal here isn't just for you to be seen. The goal is to change how we relate that visibility altogether. When you integrate humble confidence, you're not just chasing recognition, you're not hiding from it, just showing up and serving well and letting impact speak for itself, because then like being seen becomes just the natural byproduct of helping others. And so here's what I want you to leave with today as we wrap up. Like, your gifts aren't invisible because they're small or unimportant. They're visible because you've been judging them by how easy they feel to you instead of how valuable they are to other people. You know, the thing that you do without even thinking, like the one that you shrug off as no big deal, that's usually your superpower in disguise, you know, and somebody out there is desperately waiting for it. You know, I know what that feels like, you know, to feel overlooked. I used to sit in meetings doing solid work, watching other people get the recognition. I believed the myth was like good work should speak for itself, but that humility like meant that I was keeping quiet. But reality, I wasn't being humble, I was hiding. And that's where you've been. We've all been hiding, and it doesn't help us. It doesn't help the people who needed the thing that I could bring to the table. And so what we covered today, the 4 principles, like when you start spotting these gifts through other people's eyes, you start, see what, when you show up when it counts, for the people around you, when you keep a record of what that is, and you bring that humble confidence. Once again, like you don't just do it all at once. You have to pick, you have to do all of these things. Pick one that aligns with you. Maybe you just reach out to a few people this week and ask, what they consistently rely on you on for. Maybe you do the positioning map where you decide, on one place you're going to show up with your gifts, like whatever. Maybe tonight you jot down some moments in your daily value log that you would normally dismiss, whatever. The point isn't like, it's real humility isn't hiding these strengths. It's putting them to work. And when you consistently place your gifts where they solve real problems, recognition shows up naturally and you don't have to chase it. Now, if this hits home, if these ideas, and once again, that's where I would highly recommend that you use the link down in the description. Go to Amazon, get yourself a copy of The Giver Method, or head to thegivermethod.com, get on our newsletter list, get yourself, where you're going to, all the resources we have there as well. If you're tired of being overlooked, you want someone to guide you through these things of finding your gifts and showing up to create value for those around you, making a greater impact in the world, then check out the coaching link down below. And if you run a team, have a podcast, an event, a group thing where this message would resonate, let's talk about what it looks like to bring it to them. There's a link down below about speaking and podcasting. And of course, hit subscribe, tap that bell for notifications. Wouldn't want you to miss out on anything we have coming next. Like the video, of course. Comment which of these things maybe landed for you the most. I love to hear them so I can put that into motion as part of future videos. Remember, like, your gifts don't need a spotlight. They need, they need a stage where their impact is undeniable, right? And the world is waiting for what you can only offer. You're the only person that has your combination of gifts, superpowers, and experiences. Like, they're waiting for it. So go make those invisible gifts impossible to miss, not by showing up louder, but by showing up through service to the people that matter the most to you. And with that, I'll just tell you, have a great rest of your day. Feel free to check out the other videos on the channel if this hit home for you, and hopefully we'll catch you in our next video. Have a great rest of your day.